Adana was a young girl from a small, vibrant village nestled deep in the hills of southeastern Nigeria. Life in the village was simple and serene, and she grew up surrounded by the warmth of her family and the closeness of her community. At 18, Adana was known for her beauty, with deep brown eyes that sparkled under the African sun and a kind heart that drew people to her. Though her family was not rich, they lived a contented life, and Adana was the pride of her parents, especially since she was preparing to begin her training as a seamstress, a respected trade in their village. One fateful day, a boy named Chibuzo arrived in the village. He was tall, handsome, and had a charming smile that made every girl in the village turn their heads. Chibuzo had come from the city, sent by his parents to live with his uncle for a while. The village whispered about him, how he was different, how he knew things about the world beyond the hills, and how he was the kind of boy who would surely make a good husband one day. Adana had heard these whispers but didn't pay them much attention until she met Chibuzo at the village stream one evening. It was just before sunset, and she was drawing water when he approached her with his usual easy charm. "Let me help you with that," he offered, taking the heavy pot from her hands. Their conversation was light, and his laughter was infectious. From that moment on, Chibuzo seemed to find reasons to be near her, whether at the market or during village celebrations. Over time, Chibuzo wooed Adana, and she fell deeply in love with him. He showered her with sweet words, promises of a future together, and dreams of taking her to the city where they would start a new life. Adana believed him. She had never felt so loved before, and she began to envision a life where she would be his wife, and they would be happy. But the reality was different. Chibuzo had no intention of staying in the village. He was there temporarily, and his plan was to return to the city, where his life awaited him. Though he enjoyed Adana's company, he was not serious about their relationship. Adana, blinded by her feelings, didn't see the signs. One night, under the stars, after months of sneaking around and stolen moments, Adana gave herself to him, believing it was a sign of their undying love and commitment. But shortly after, things began to change. Chibuzo grew distant, spending less time with her, and when she tried to talk to him, he brushed her off with excuses about being busy. Weeks later, Adana began to feel strange. She was constantly tired, felt sick in the mornings, and her body changed in ways she couldn't ignore. It wasn't long before she realized she was pregnant. Panic set in, and she confided in Chibuzo, hoping for reassurance. But instead of the comforting words she expected, he grew angry. "Are you sure it's mine?" he asked coldly, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. Adana was shocked. "Of course it's yours. You're the only one I've been with," she replied, her voice trembling. But Chibuzo shook his head, refusing to take responsibility. "I can't be the father, Adana. I'm leaving for the city soon, and I can't be tied down with this kind of problem. You have to handle it yourself." His words shattered her. The boy she had loved so dearly, the one who had promised her the world, was abandoning her. Adana was left alone, heartbroken and scared. As the weeks passed and her pregnancy became more obvious, the whispers in the village grew louder. People gossiped behind her back, judging her harshly for being pregnant out of wedlock. Her parents, once so proud of her, were devastated and ashamed. They had raised her to be a good girl, to follow the traditions of the land, and to honor her family. And now, she had brought disgrace to their name. Her mother wept in silence, unable to face the neighbors, while her father barely spoke to her. He was a man of dignity and respect, and now his only daughter had brought shame upon him. He wouldn't even look her in the eyes anymore. Adana's world began to fall apart. Everywhere she went, people whispered and stared. She was no longer the respected young girl of the village, she had become a symbol of shame. The women who had once smiled at her now turned their backs, and the men looked at her with scorn. Even the village elders began to distance themselves from her family, fearing association with the scandal. Chibuzo had long left the village and had never returned. He had escaped the responsibility of the child he had fathered, leaving Adana to bear the weight of it all alone. Like and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.